Friends, we come to honor our past and to learn from it, to consider our present and our response to it, and to create our own future. Come, let us worship together. We light our chalice this morning as a symbol of connection with our larger faith community and with all religious communities who, however imperfectly, struggle for liberation. Please rise in body and our spirit and join in our opening hymn, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. The lyrics will be on the screens.
Good morning, All Souls, and welcome. My name is John Matthews, and I'm your worship associate today. My pronouns are he, him. Welcome to this beautiful place called All Souls Church. Beautiful in many ways, both literal and figurative. Literally beautiful in its architecture, even though in places it may be showing its age. But I think it's aging gracefully for the most part, don't you? And also beautiful in the faces and voices of its congregants and visitors. Beautiful also, though, in its mission and its aspiration, to be a place of belonging where all souls feel welcome, supported, and embraced, with the goal of building the beloved community Dr. King envisioned, where the structures of prejudice and discrimination have been felled and all truly feel a part of a single unified human family. If you're visiting us for the first time or still feel new here, please raise your hand so we can give you an old-fashioned All Souls welcome. Are there any visitors? A great way to get to know other congregants is to come to coffee hour in Pierce Hall through the door to your right, my left. If you're new or feeling new, feel free to grab a red welcoming mug and reveal yourself as a newcomer. We also invite connecting souls visiting us online to stay online for a virtual coffee hour. For all of us, our weekly email bulletin is a great way to find out the latest news. Sign up through the link on the All Souls homepage. Today, we honor the great legacy of indigenous and enslaved peoples at this international crossroads now called Washington, D.C. For generations, the indigenous Piscataway tribes have been the traditional caretakers of our bioregion. Over 200 years ago, Euro-American settler colonists founded this church. We have inhabited 3 All Souls church buildings on different sites taken from indigenous peoples. Each was built by workers that were immigrants or descendants of enslaved and indigenous peoples. The heritage of all these ancestors is still here in this region and in our congregation. In 2024, our All Souls beloved community is pledging to learn more about these complex histories. In this Black History Month and beyond, we urge you to explore a DC treasure, the National Museum of African American History and Culture. You can do this in person or online at www.nmaahc.si.edu. May we learn together wherever we reside as we begin with the past and imagine a better future. Now, I invite you to greet one another. On Zoom, head over to Gallery View and turn your camera on if willing and able. And in the sanctuary, feel free to get up and move around as you're comfortable. Let's take some time to say hello. All right, folks, thank you so much. This is the hardest part of the worship associate job. Let's continue our conversations after the service. And everyone, again, welcome to All Souls.
beautiful. Good morning, All Souls. My name is Kirsten, or Kiki Lodel. I'm a longtime All Souls member and honored to be an All Souls sponsored candidate for Unitarian Universalist ordination and serving as your liturgist today. Oh, thank you. As John referenced earlier, here at All Souls, we have claimed the work of building beloved community as central to our congregational mission and identity. And we acknowledge that that work begins right here, amongst ourselves. And thanks to the loving and extensive labor of our ministers and staff and lay leaders, we have so many powerful offerings right now that enable us to build deep connections with one another while fueling our collective justice work. And I want to turn your attention to just a few that are happening in this next week. After today's service, as part of our Core Connections series, the All Souls Committee on Right Relations is hosting the first of a 3-part training series on the foundational practices of conflict transformation, as part of our congregational commitment to transformative justice. All are welcome. No prior experience is necessary, just an opened mind and heart. The series will take place today, March 3rd, and March 10th, all at 12:15 after this main service. Every week, we are now hosting what's called a Welcoming Wednesday gathering for those who would like to get to know other people in the congregation better in a fun and casual setting. This Wednesday's theme is What's on Your Pizza? So you'll bring your favorite topping or toppings, and we'll gather at 6:30 p.m. in the dining room and make homemade pizzas and break bread and get to know one another through the diversity of our topping preferences. So join us on Wednesday. We hope that the whole congregation will make a special effort to be present at next Sunday's service, whether here in the sanctuary or on Zoom, when we will officially launch our Hope Rises capital campaign, which was enthusiastically approved during a recent congregational vote. So can we get an approval, some applause for that. And after the service, we'll host a luncheon and a carnival-style party with fun activities for all ages as we celebrate this transformative investment in the future of All Souls and of our beloved building. And it wouldn't be All Souls if we didn't suggest that while you enjoy the carnival next Sunday, we also want you to help get out the vote during this year's incredibly important elections. Alongside the capital campaign launch, the All Souls Reeb Project for Voting Rights will be launching its Get Out the Vote in 2024 effort, starting with a postcard campaign in the ever so critical state of Georgia. So, next Sunday, bring a bag with you and consider taking home a batch of postcards to send to Georgia residents who live in the communities most marked by a history of voter suppression. As a reminder for those who might be new here, the Reeb Project was named in honor of former All Souls Associate Minister, Reverend James Reeb, who was tragically beaten to death by white supremacists while marching for voting rights in Selma, Alabama in 1965. So we honor his legacy through this work. And we are ever mindful of our hurting world. And so we toll our Revere bell before each service as an outward expression of our yearning for justice and compassion and peace throughout the Middle East, in every war-torn region, and in every community suffering from the scourge of violence, including our own community right here in Washington, D.C. We cry out for peace. We now offer a moment for you to raise the joys and concerns that you are carrying on your hearts today. You may speak them aloud into this space, or raise them silently in the sanctuary of your hearts, or write them in the chat if you are on Zoom. We welcome your sharing. Please join me in a time of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life and of love, somehow it seems that we arrive at this sacred place most Sundays carrying so much on our shoulders and in our hearts. And somehow, it seems that we leave this place most Sundays lightened by the reminder that in this community, we never ever need to carry our heart's heavy cargo alone. For we are here for one another. For we are held in community. In a community where connection and care and love is abundant. At this time of congregational transformation, as we reflect deeply on what it means to lead and to be led, as we deconstruct and reconstruct, as we seek to find union through our diversity, may we hold tight to the often magical sensations of these Sunday mornings that we share. When we experience a love that is expansive and creative enough to hold all of us and all that we are, in our suffering and in our gladness, giving us the strength to press on in our lives and in our shared march towards beloved community. May it be so, and amen.
Amen. As most of you know, All Souls is in a time of transition regarding our senior settled minister. Currently, we're in the process of identifying what's known as a developmental minister to help us work on several key goals so that in 2 years or so, we will be ready to call a new senior minister from a place of real strength and grounding. Transition periods like this can be difficult, but it's also vitally important for the congregation to reflect on its identity and goals apart from the identity and goals of a minister. One of the many critical reasons for this is so the congregation does not expect any new minister to be a savior, to be everything and do everything. That is a bad setup for both the minister and the congregation. Oh, but it is tempting, oh, so tempting to get carried away with all the qualities we'd want. In our Unitarian Universalist system, a congregation in search for a new minister creates a profile of what they're looking for. Consider this couplet penned by a member of the All Souls Search Committee in 1968. Our profile is composed now amidst autumn breezes. Our standards so high, we've disqualified Jesus. Fast forward 56 years. In early December 2023, a group from All Souls gathered in the church for a summit on transformational leadership. Our purpose was to help identify the values and goals and practices we wanted to guide us, both in general in regards to leadership, but very specifically in terms of a new training course that is being developed. Early on in the day, we compiled a list of the theological and ethical and practical values we thought needed to be upheld by church leaders. And early on, I got the sense that folks were very excited about the list. It was achievable and inspiring. But as more and more things got added, all of them important and worthwhile, I could feel the energy shift. We ended up with a list of 30 different qualities, and it felt overwhelming, totally unachievable. And then some wise soul made the observation that unlocked a different path. These aren't the qualities every leader needs to have, they said. These are the qualities that need to exist in the leadership system. At that moment, even though I'm a religious humanist, I'm pretty sure I heard angels singing and a sunbeam from heaven shining down on us in the Reeve lobby. Ah! It is so true. Of course, not every single person can have the leadership qualities needed. Individuals need to have some basic competencies, yes, but what we need and what we can reasonably achieve is a leadership system that holds all of the necessary qualities. Now, some of the needed qualities haven't changed much over time, and All Souls has put together many excellent leadership courses in the past. But some of the qualities are new or need a different emphasis that fits with the challenges and opportunities of our present circumstances. In her incredible book, Emergent Strategy, Shaping Change, Changing Worlds, Adrienne Maree Brown talks about a process of transformation that occurred in her and with her at a nonprofit organization called the Ruckus Society, where she was executive director. Now, our organizational contexts aren't exactly the same as a congregation versus a secular nonprofit, but they're similar enough to be relevant. And reflecting on what they accomplished there, I want to quote a little extensively from Adrienne Maree Brown. She writes, Now, in hindsight, I can see how we have transformed ourselves in a way that makes our work much more relevant as a living resistance to the dysfunctional social system in which we live. Within our small organization, we have grown from a kick-ass, majority-white, male-led, environmental issue-centered network into a kick-ass, female-led, multicultural, justice and environment-centered network. We lovingly embrace those who brought the skills before us and those to come as part of the same fierce family of fearless activists with lifelong commitments to social transformation. We are intentional about living our vision in terms of how we operate as a community in order to bring vision-based support to the movement we love. We opt for self-determination and sustainability in everything, from our structure to our budgets to our programs. We have also learned that we had to lay out our operating beliefs. Each person has a set of beliefs with which they move through the world. These are formed by their cultural, social, economic, and environmental, amongst others, experiences from birth. And they change as more experiences are added to the whole. A group brings their beliefs together into a set of named or unnamed ways in which they operate. We have made our beliefs very transparent at Ruckus. Now, as we move forward with a new chapter of leadership in the long story of leadership development at All Souls, the group, led by members of the 8th Principal Advisory Team, is primarily focusing on what is unique or different about leadership here at All Souls. It starts with 2 of the commitments that anchor our Core Connections program as well: spiritual grounding, in love specifically, and relationship building. And deeply related to this is a commitment to care. We need to be people that are there for each other. And of course, these specific practices are part of our overall calling to build beloved community. And I don't mean an abstract or sanitized version of beloved community. I mean the kind that's real and messy. And sometimes, let's face it, real messy. It's the kind that, in the language of our first church goal, is multicultural, multiracial, multi-generational. Kind that Bell Hooks talks about in her book, Killing Rage, Ending Racism, when she writes, "Beloved community is formed not by the eradication of difference, but by its affirmation. By each of us claiming the identities and cultural legacies that shape who we are and how we live in the world." So much of how leadership happens in the wider world is transactional and it's monocultural. It is focused so much on outcomes that there is little room, if any, for us to feel understood and appreciated for who we are. Now, some of you may remember one of the main ways I view our Unitarian Universalist congregations, and especially All Souls, is as an experiment. We are trying to create a truly diverse, loving, justice-centered, and justice-seeking community, which is still a pretty new thing in our world. All Souls has had its share of struggles, to be sure, and it's also true that many, not all, but many, have been directly related to the fact that we were pushing the envelope, that we were trying to do something different. For more than 200 years, the leaders of this congregation have relentlessly pushed us forward into uncharted waters. Now, as important and helpful as transformative leadership may be, it's not the entire equation. It was Chuck Delaney who named this for me. Chuck is a longtime member, a former board president, currently serves on our leadership development and nominating committee. I was meeting with them in the fall to talk about this new transformative leadership training, and he said something like, and we also need a different approach to being led. I hadn't really thought of it that way before, but the more I've thought about it, the more it strikes me as profoundly true. Because no one, of course, is a leader on everything all the time, and that, frankly, most of the time, in most situations, our role is to follow. And that in the same way, the dominant culture socializes us to dysfunctional patterns of leadership, it also socializes us to dysfunctional patterns of following. Because many of the ways we're expected to follow in the larger world are also transactional and superficial, without genuine trust or relationship. Now, yes, we have folks like Dr. Martin Luther King and Stacey Abrams and others to inspire us, but that's a distant and indirect relationship, except in rare instances we don't actually know those exemplars in a personal capacity. Now, some of us, true, are fortunate enough to work for really good leaders in our jobs or community organizations, and that certainly makes a big difference. But a congregation like All Souls, is still a bit of a different environment. It's different to be a leader or a follower in a place where spiritual grounding, authentic relationships, love, care, and justice are all core commitments. Now, two ways come to mind in particular. First, there is very little distance between congregational leaders and congregational followers. The people serving on the board, the people leading our capital campaign, the people leading the READ project and our classes and covenant groups, they are you. They're sitting right beside you in the sanctuary right now. They're in the adjacent box on Zoom. Their stories, their identities might be different from yours, but maybe not. Whatever their path or origin, whatever yours, every single person's journey led them here to All Souls, and y'all decided it was worth staying. Now, second, in most other organizational settings, the leaders really bear the responsibility for the organization overall, and the followers just have a small part to play. In our Unitarian Universalist system, however, the entire congregation bears responsibility for the entire congregation. Yes, of course, there are different roles, but when you're a member of a group here, whether it's from archives to ushers, young souls, souls in the middle, or silver souls, it's not just the leader's responsibility to prioritize spiritual grounding, authentic relationships, and care. It's for everyone. Everyone here has a role to play in holding the whole. Now, yes, the dynamics are a little different for those of us who have chosen to work at All Souls. The fact that it's a paid job for my staff colleagues and I does change things a bit, but what it doesn't change is the fact that we, too, have decided to work here specifically and have committed ourselves to the same vision and mission and goals of All Souls. I resonate strongly with these words from David Eaton, who was the minister called by that 1968 search committee. He served here from 1969 to 1992 and writes, "For me, the ministry is not a profession. The clergy is a profession. The ministry is a process of bringing the best from yourself and thereby eliciting the best from others." What we call this now is shared ministry. And knowing that we all bring different strengths and challenges, our task is to help each other feel good about the things that we're good at and self-aware enough to know and manage the things that we're not good at. And always to support each other's learning and growth so that new awareness, new skills, and new confidence can develop. Now, in a very simple but important way, Reverend Bill helped me out in this arena recently. For years, I've really enjoyed making basic shelves and simple things out of wood. But the stuff I make is not nearly as nice as what I know is possible from fine woodworkers, so I tend to downplay both what I do and honestly how important it is to me. And we were talking at a staff meeting recently about various interests and skills, and in my downplayed explanation, I said something like, I don't know, I like to cut pieces of wood and put them together to make things. And I could tell that Reverend Bill had an immediate reaction to my statement, and he turned to me in a voice that was characteristically pastoral, but also had some recognition that my statement was some level of nonsense. And he just said, "That's literally the definition of carpentry." And I've thought that about 1,000 times since. That's literally, yeah, that's right. And just that statement, the laughter, the whole exchange has helped me shift towards claiming that identity as a woodworker. I'm like, yeah, I might not be able to do what others can do, certainly not yet anyway, but what I still do is carpentry. And gosh darn it, that makes me a carpenter. I even built this fancy piece of wood that holds my papers. In the hours and days that follow worship today, I hope you will think about what you're good at, and also what and how you want to learn, not just at All Souls, but anywhere. And I invite you to consider investing more here and now. All Souls Leadership Development and Nominating Committee is actively recruiting right now for board members, officers, and members of their committee. There's more information in the bulletin, in the newsletter, and also someone available in person at the board table after service in Pierce Hall. They encourage you to apply as soon as possible, but no later than March 4th. And as I mentioned, we're hoping to launch a new training course on transformational leadership in April or May, so stay tuned for advertising about that. I want to close with another quote from Adrienne Marie Brown, where she answers what is arguably the most important question of all about taking a new approach to leadership. How does it feel? Her answer is my hope and my prayer for us. She writes, "Being a part of this team has been incredible. We have experienced what it's like to release any assumption that one person has all the skills needed to lead and support the work. That release, a huge relief to me personally, allowed us to begin to really weave together our strengths rather than facing the limitations of relying on one leader to hold the vision, coordination, fundraising, and programmatic work of the group. It has allowed us to face our own personal limitations with transparency and curiosity, noting where we want to grow and not being afraid to ask for feedback. On an average day, it feels like an extremely functional organization working for change. On the best days, it feels like the world we are trying to create, and it is marvelous. May it be so."
Speaking for the worship associates, Rob the Carpenter, I have to say, this is an awesome thing. I really appreciate it. It may not be this, but... A few things in the past few weeks have brought me back to 2020, when the pandemic was at its most uncertain and most terrifying. A number of people close to me have gotten COVID, and while their cases haven't been seriously symptomatic, they have been laid low, and when they started to recover, the masks, so ubiquitous in the DMV at least in 2020, appeared in greater numbers. I'm interviewing for new teachers for the coming school year, and first round interviews are taking place on good old Zoom. Wouldn't you know that 5 minutes before my first interview, Zoom needed to update itself, delaying things by a very painful 5 minutes. And even though then it was at its newest and hardiest, there were a few lags and freezings during the interview as well. Grr. On a more serious note, a friend of mine developed a very serious illness early in the week, which landed him in the ER and then in the ICU. And for a time, it wasn't clear what he was suffering from and whether he was going to be okay. I'm happy to report that it looks as though he'll make a full recovery, but during that period of uncertainty, I was reminded of how for millions in 2020 and 2021, this was the case for those who contracted COVID. It was a horrible stretch of time. But during that period, All Souls was truly a light in the darkness for my wife and I. Every Sunday, no matter the weather, we would put on our walking shoes or hiking boots and get out in our neighborhood to walk church. And week after week, church was there for us. And not just present, but shining in the darkness with hopeful sermons, incredibly well-orchestrated music. How did the choir even rehearse? And delightful stories for All Souls. It's not at all an understatement to say that All Souls was a huge factor in helping Linda and me make it through the pandemic without losing hope or faith. And for that, we are eternally grateful. We also love that Connected Souls has stayed a thing. So if we ever need to walk or run church nowadays, that's still an option. For all of these reasons, we give generously to this church we hold so dear. Half of today's offering will support our church, and the other half will go to our Share a Plate recipient for February, One Common Unity, OCU. Their high-impact holistic programming engages youth, families, and educators in the DC area to lead a shift toward peace through in-school and after-school programs, mental health services, citywide campaigns, teacher trainings, family engagement sessions, community concerts, and art showcases. If you're in the sanctuary, the ushers will now be passing the plate. You can also text to All Souls by sending ASCU to 73256. If you're on Zoom, click the link in the chat, which will direct you to All Souls online giving. Thank you all in advance for your generosity.
Change your life from Leading in love is the theme of our last song together. It's our congregational closing song. Lead with love. I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. This song was written by vocal activist Melanie DeMore. She wrote it the day after the elections in 2016. You got to put one foot in front of the other and lead in love. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. We'll sing it. Join in if you feel comfortable whenever you do. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead it love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other. Lead with love. Lift up your eyes. Lift up your eyes. Don't you despair. Don't you despair. Look up ahead. Look up ahead. The path is there. The path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other. One foot and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Oh, you gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. One foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared. Well, I'm scared too. But here I am. Right next to you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And lead with love. And lead with love.
Our benediction is a refrain from the opening hymn. When we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. Amen.